The TLC Show, where you exercise your most important muscle, your heart. The TLC Show is a talk show that touches lives compassionately by broadcasting voices not normally heard. Laugh, listen, and learn to our caring, courageous, and charismatic guests. And now, this week's episode of the TLC Show. Aloha and welcome to the TLC Show. In the next few episodes, we're going to be interviewing candidates who are running for office for the very first time. As you know, I have spent several episodes talking about that this is an ideal time for new candidates to run because of the fact that the redistricting has hugely altered the district lines. The normal advantage that an incumbent has will be gone. And in this case, we're interviewing a candidate who's running for an open seat. I have with me today Joe Rattner, who's running as a candidate for District 40. Now, the last time I met Joe, it was at the Capitol 2 years ago. He was in a wheelchair. He called me and said, "I'm running for House." I thought, how in the world is he going to have the stamina to run for House? I meet him today. He comes vibrantly walking up the stairs. He looks absolutely terrific.
Thank you.
Joe, please introduce yourself and let people know why you are running for the House District 40.
Thank you. My name is Joe Rattner, and I'm a proud Ever by Gentry, Makai resident, which is now one of the areas that District 40 will be representing. That seat will be representing Ever by Gentry, Makai, and West Loch Towers. And the other half of Ever Beach will now be District 41. So with this open seat comes opportunity. In 2004, I opened an organization called West Oahu Hope for Cure Foundation, which is why I was sponsoring World AIDS Day at the Capitol. And I have been running effective bills through the legislature since that time for supplemental funding to help the community. So I decided that if I was healthy enough and the opportunity came, and I respected those who were there before and asked if it was okay, that I would give it my best, because in 8 years as a citizen, each year I have been able to save a program. In 2004, it was HDAP and HVAN, that's the Drug Assistance and Medical Management Program. The following year, it was Save the Food Basket, and the following year, it was a dental program. For the next 2 or 3 years after that, I wrestled with authoring to amend the medical cannabis program legislation that was passed in 2000, because that was a sensitive of a topic that it is, which is why I wrote the legislation. It was because it needed to be tightened up, and I wanted to be a part of that. It eventually got passed into a task force. Even though it was vetoed and overridden, we still had a working group, and hopefully things will come to pass. But my biggest accomplishment, I think, to recent is in 2010, there were going to be 4 programs that would have shut in the community that has the chronically ill within it. Gregory House Programs would have lost its rent subsidy program. Life Foundation would have lost their transgender, their women program, and Child, the Syringe Project, we're still going to be in the red, even though they got 90 grand. In total, I was able to get appropriated $270,000, which Governor Lingle at the time, of course, put a lock and key on it until she got out, and Governor Abercrombie released come that January, and it in fact saved a minimum of 35 people from losing their housing, and it saved the transgender and women's program at Life Foundation, which takes a whole community that's an at-risk community that can affect our public's health. And I just felt that that was an important area. And the first one that I did was HDAP and HVAM. The drug assistance program basically was preventing the illness from going elsewhere, and without continuing to do that and letting at-risk people not take medicine, then we're only putting our KK at risk. So that's not something I was willing to put up with. And by by doing so in a humble way and in a way that says, I'm not doing this for me, I'm doing this because there are other people that are hurting. The legislature was very, I want to say, not shocked at the way that I asked for the money and were willing to take me behind closed doors and come up with a number that would be realistic and that would not just last for 1 year but for 2. And for instance, people like Senator John Oakland, Representative Marcus Oshiro, Representative John Mizuno, these are people that I've written legislation with. I've been through the committees from beginning to end, and sometimes 3 and 4 bills in the session. And sometimes I was the only original advocate for that bill. So I'm just used to making sure that if something needs to get taken care of, that it gets taken care of. And right now, in Ever Beach, we have a couple of situations. We have no health care in terms of an urgent care, which I don't want to call it that because what I think we could do and what I will work on if I'm so lucky to get elected is to find federal grant for a federal health center like Waikiki has. Ever Beach qualifies, and I was investigating this because of our demographics and the seniors in our area. We actually qualify to be able to get the grant to do that and then be able to assist probably Leeward area. Mm-hmm. And right now, there's no urgent care that's opening tomorrow, I don't see. And I don't see anything happening tomorrow either with the thing that's going on with Queens and the original buyers of St. Francis wanting to buy them. So we don't know what's going to happen. But in the meantime, our community sits at nerves. My father is on oxygen, mm-hmm. you know? So if my father needs help, it's not right down the block anymore.
Right.
And he's got to go 45 minutes away and possibly 45 minutes to Waianae where, you know, mm-hmm. it's just, it's a sad situation that I really think maybe the government should have had more to do with in terms of the aftermath. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm running.
Okay. So you have been a citizen advocate, and you have drafted legislation.
Right.
And you have worked with legislators.
Right.
And you've testified.
I've testified probably for at least 40 bills in person. I would say more in writing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
For sure, more in writing. Before that, I mean, it'd be only be fair. I've only been here 10 years. I was an optometrist in New Jersey and New York for 18 years. So I helped people see for many years, and I thought that was my gift that would make me happy, that would satisfy me. Mm-hmm. And it did, for a time, mm-hmm. to be honest, for a time. And I didn't know when I would grow up, and it wasn't that I was not doing anything, not grown up, but I was in a job, I was making decent money, I had a nice place. It didn't matter if I didn't go out and, you know, treat the addicted one on the corner. Mm-hmm. That became very important in my life 27 years ago. And when I decided to not ever look at drugs again, for me, I decided that it was time that I became a certified substance abuse counselor, and that began my role in public health, and it attached itself to my opticianry, and then it sprouted into Paradise here, where I've actually opened some Narcotics Anonymous meetings, 2 that are still open, actually both in Waipahu. I have, in fact, also have meetings through the organization, West Oahu Hope for a Cure, for families who are dual diagnosed with hepatitis and HIV. And we have a rehabilitation program for alcoholism and addiction called Living Recovery in Paradise. And that, I'm proud of that, because when I moved here in Waianae, there was a halfway house that needed a manager. And the owners were the Freitas. Alfred and Louise Freitas. And they had 12, and I mean young, under 20, in the house, relapsing over relapsing. And I remember somebody introducing me to the possibility of working there. I met the father, and I, in fact, took the role, and I had to clean up house. And it was the hardest thing I had to do because it put 15-year-olds
Out on the street.
out on the street, and which is something that was totally against what I believed in, because I believe in housing and preventative solutions and compassionate care, and this is what I don't see here, and this is why when I come from the East Coast, but either a part of me was here before, or I just belonged here to begin with, because the spirit of aloha just breathes right out of me all the time, and I feel it coming from other people, and it's just such a wonderful thing to be able to actually help people. And one of my taglines, I was struggling through this tagline, but I think I got it, because I think that effective collaborative leadership that cares is something that's not being said. It's that middle word, collaborative. And I've looked and I've read and I've gone to sites, and I don't see anything about working together and tono and just those things that would make government so much better. And I hope to bring some of that to there.
Okay. So then now you have mentioned that you've also now done capital improvement projects. You've been able to get money.
Right.
And you have served the people. So it looks like you've got the major areas covered. You've done the work that a legislator has done in the past. You've got some experience.
Yes.
Okay.
And I actually enjoyed learning it, and I went through it. I mean, in terms of speaking in front of people like Senator Baker, Senator Chen Oakland, Senator Ige, I can't even begin to tell you, speakers say, Congressman Hanabusa, when he was president of the Senate, I mean, these are important people to our government, and they have taken a kind eye to who I was and what I represented, and I'm very appreciative to that.
Okay. So now that you've got the skill set, seemingly, let's talk about the issues important to your district, because your goal or your focus, understandably, has been largely compassionate care, health care, some substance abuse. But I'm sure there are other issues that are important to District 40. What are those, and how do you intend to address them?
And the ones we were speaking of are more my experience in terms of getting those things done. What I want to do in terms of Ever Beach, and I've mentioned the healthcare situation, the facility, but even more so is for our children, for our keiki. There's a program that was on the mainland, and it's called the same thing here, except here it's just a show twice a year. And where I come from, workforce program, which is how I learned how to become an optician and then went on to get licensed, was that for students who could not afford a 4-year school or even a 2-year school, with collaborative associations with the small businesses and corporations in the state, they offer a certain amount of scholarships to grade point averages of 2.5 and above in every public and private school in the state. And we would have people working without struggling if they have to. And it would teach them a trade. My trade, if I wanted to stay with an associate's degree, I was making $70,000 a year. That can be taught easily from, and I'm not advocating for lower grades in school by any means, but what I'm advocating for is giving choices, because we're not giving our young people choices. We're saying, you must graduate from a 4-year school or you're not going to get a trade. And I say no.
So you broaden the educational spectrum.
Broaden the educational spectrum, broaden the economic development. And by doing that, I think that we will bring up our employment rates and branch out businesses. And hopefully bring our income higher,
Right.